A while back, Razer invited me to the store in London to showcase two brand new products, the V4 Pro and this right here, the Razer Blackshark V3 Pro, the latest flagship headset that is going to cost you quite a bit. But before I grandly reveal the price to you at the end of this video, let's actually talk about how Razer are justifying it in the first place and what exactly is new. Already, I really like the kind of unboxing experience of some of the more premium products that Razer have been releasing recently. There is no additional packaging. Instead, everything is handled by just this additional foam here. So there is no paper or anything. But despite that, the product still arrives in perfect condition and in such a way that you still have that really nice wow moment when you just see them for the very first time. It looks pretty similar in most ways to the last gen model, and in fact it is a bit heavier, and that's because of all of the additional tech they have inside. If I just put it on, I can already barely hear myself, even just without anything connected. They are already pretty good at covering up your ears so you hear very little of the outside world. What else do we have here? We have your traditional little dongle here for connecting it up, as well as all of the other stuff in here. Okay, in this little box, you're going to get yourself a nice braided USB Type-C to A cable to connect it up. You get yourself the microphone itself, because as you can see, it is completely optional. You don't have to have it on all the time if you don't need to. You can just unscrew it. Plus, you also get a Type-C to audio jack here as well. And I would have almost forgotten the most important part. You also get your Razer stickers, because how can you live without these? So there's plenty of ways you can actually connect these. These support both Bluetooth and also Razer HyperSpeed wireless technology. Plus, you can also connect them via USB-C and also via just a regular audio jack. And in fact, you can even have multiple of these methods running at the same time. On the left-hand side, you have your volume knob, you have your mic mute button, your on and off switch, your USB Type-C connection, as well as the audio jack for the mic. Plus, on the right-hand side, you're going to get yourself a button to switch between the various EQ profile presets, a little wheel to adjust the balance between in-game and voice chat audio levels, as well as your ANC button. Now let's see if the ANC is actually worth anything. So if I quickly turn it on, I honestly can't even hear the fans in the PC. That is literally right here. I'm literally touching it just out of frame right here and I can't hear it. That is actually pretty good, not to mention the fact that because there's such a good fit and there is pretty much no outside audio just coming into your ears anyway, because of how sealed it is, the ANC doesn't have to do too much, but it's still adding quite a bit. And then if you press that button again, you get into an ambient mode, so I can hear myself almost twice at this point when I'm talking, but that also is an option. So if you want to shut yourself off from everything that's going on in the world right now, you can get these. Now I have some music going just to see what those new drivers are worth, and especially with the ANC on as well, it is really, really clear. Obviously, not quite as good as some like high-end tier headphones and standalone headphones rather than gaming headsets. It is still a gaming headset, and of course when it comes to prioritizing what the audio quality is like, they're mostly focusing about how it is going to sound in games rather than what it's going to sound like in music. You can very much still use it in that. Like when I'm just listening to it right now, it still sounds phenomenal when it comes to just music playback, but of course the main advantages will be in terms of how you hear things in games. And this right here is what the included microphone is going to sound like. They made a big deal about how they're including this next generation 12mm capsule mic, and well, you let me know if you like the way it sounds or not. With a sampling rate of 4800 kilohertz, it certainly isn't bad, and of course it's all about making sure that others on your team hear you clearly when you're giving those so important call outs in the pro teams you're definitely all part of and not just wannabe professional players. In terms of the overall comfort of this thing, despite being a bit on the heavier side, and heavier headsets and headphones generally make my head hurt very quickly, these are fine and the overall weight balance is pretty decent. However, when it comes to adjustments, well, you don't do it via the band. Instead, it's done by this little metal rod right here. So you can just slide each cup up and down. However, because of the system, it's impossible almost to get them even, because there are no latches, there is no numbering or anything, so you just have to basically feel it out if you want them both to be, you know, about the same length. So for such a premium headset, I would have expected like something, have it be keyed, you know, have latches inside or whatever, just so I can measure exactly how much I move this down and how much I can move this down, so they are at exactly the same height. There's also one more party trick that this headset is capable of, and that's something quite a few headsets can do now. You can just take off these little panels on the side and replace them with whatever you want. They showcase how they've partnered with various esports teams, but also I guess if you're crafty, you can, I don't know, maybe 3D print your own. So it's a headset that is comfortable, versatile, sounds good, but of course all of that can't come cheap, costing you $250. However, if that's a bit too much for you, then there's also some different ones. There's also the non-pro version, which costs $150, which has pretty much all of the same features, the 50mm drivers, the THX support, however, without ANC, and then there's the step down V3X HyperSpeed for just $100, which is the most entry level model, which lacks both the THX and the ANC, and is cut down in a couple of ways to make it so cheap. However, it will still give you an overall pretty similar experience when it comes to the sound quality, meaning that if this is something you need in your life, but if your bank account is already crying at the possibility of you buying this thing, then there are some cheap alternatives out there. But wait, there's more, because they also have console variants as well for the Xbox and the PlayStation. For the most part, these are identical to the regular PC version of the V3 Pro. They cost the same, have the same features. However, if you're still doing the console war thing, rather than joining us in the enlightened world of PC gaming, you still have these as an option. So you either have your green stitching on the Xbox One or blue stitching on the, you guessed it, PlayStation. Apart from just that colored stitching, pretty much the only other change is the fact that instead of having desktop THX support, they support either Windows Sonic for the mini fridge or Tempest 3D audio for the router. But of course, apart from some of those audio standards, they are all compatible with all platforms, including between console and PC. So if you want to use these on, I don't know, the Nintendo Switch, because you're really into esports on the Switch too. The thing is that many people nowadays are doing what is probably the most sensible option of grabbing a pair of really good standalone headphones and then getting a separate microphone on top of that. That way you get pretty much the best possible audio quality in both music and games, and you in the end end up paying a pretty much similar amount depending on what kind of configuration you go for. Though there are still benefits to taking this approach, and you get some pretty nifty features, like for example that game and chat audio balancer or ANC that you probably aren't getting with your regular audiophile grade headphones. So there are still merits to this approach. So if you do find what it does appealing to you and your personal needs, then the links to it will be down in the video description below, where you're also going to find a Patreon, because even a single $1 a month truly goes a long way. Plus huge thanks to Gavin Burns, Tristan Rage, Ella Ronyak, Badash Voka, Patrick Harrison, Nola Pseudonym, Meg Sumner, and Shane Allcroft. But anyway, that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.